Good morning. Today is March 17th, 2024, Sunday. We continue on our studies of Tanya, Rabbi Shneur Zalman, by the book written by Rabbi Chaim Miller. We are now in chapter 27. What's interesting, we'll talk today about difficulties in life, about the problems, and how to solve them according to Tanya. So far, for 26 chapters, we essentially review. Tanya presented us, went to the anatomy and physiology of the human soul, both animal soul, animalistic soul, and the divine soul, interaction between the souls, the methods, how to recognize them, and how counteract the evil inclination within ourselves. Tanya went through quite depth analysis of the 10th Sfirot. The 10th Sfirot, here's the 10th Sfirot, that guide the humans, guide the person, and basically the universe is structured, it's an attribute of God, the way that Tanya presents it. So Ein Sof, infinite light, God, infinity, comes to a finite world through a series of worlds, from the world of Atzilut, which is emanation, that's the way God speaks to the world, to the universe. Then the world of creation, Bariah, then the world of formation, which is the world of Yetzirah, and then the world of Asiyah, the world of action. And the highest of the Sfirot, the more elevated one, Chokhmah, which is intuition, pre-thought. And we talk about the garments of the soul, thought, speech, and action. Those three are the way we communicate, humans, with the world. God communicates to us on a one level up, or many levels up, but basically on the level of Chokhmah. It's a Chokhmah, our anchor to God, to spirituality. And Tanya went through examples where we normally go through a whole series of Sfirot until gradually elevating ourselves to become one to God. And Tanya went through the analysis and comparison. It's not closeness to God, but unity with God. Tanya went through the concept of non-duality of God, which is quite revolutionary understanding. The traditional Judaism always presented multiple of facets. How can you get closer to God? Tanya says you don't need to come closer to God, you need to become one with God. We are already God, we just have to realize that. Tanya goes through a process of exploring, understanding that realization. So, in the times of emergency, big crisis, that circuits are bypassed by direct connection of Chokhmah to God. And Tanya said the direct connection happens rarely. In a very extreme, hopefully nobody, please God, experiences that. But when we do, that close connection with God, that's what moves us, that's what saves us in the times of crisis. Then Tanya continues to developing, how do you get to God? How do you get that feeling in a normal situation when you don't have emergencies and that humongous pressure? And one of the things now Tanya is getting to how to practically handle difficulties in life. So Tanya is saying the way to do it, to be always in a joyful, happy mood. Be happy. But then for us, sometimes it's easy to be happy for somebody who is healthy, has a huge surround with a huge family and friends, has a good job, or independently wealthy, doesn't experience any worldly problems. Well, easy for people like that to talk about closeness to God. What about somebody who is, God forbid, very sick, or doesn't have anybody, or have no money, very poor? The person is in pain, and then you tell him, well, be happy, be joyful, take it as it is. It's not easy to accept. We even brought an example when a couple of our discussions before, how people cry to God at the time of the Second Temple, take away our free choice, take away all the trouble. We cannot handle it. And the consequences of what happened, God did respond and took away at least some of that. And so now the question, section 3 of the chapter 26 of Tanya, how do you cope with suffering? And the Tanya talks about 2 categories of suffering. Some of them are caused by the more tangible things, like children, health, and livelihood. Children, health, and livelihood. Just imagine, Chatz v'Chalila, God forbid, to have these serious issues. And the second one is when people saddened by the religious reason. So the Tanya says the Chokhmah is in your soul, is an anchor, your ability to go beyond the immediate experience and to be totally open to something beyond. So Tanya talks about unmanifested God and manifested God. So Tanya brings a concept here so that by aligning your conscience now to the unmanifest world, which is a higher world that we don't see, through the Chokhmah, through transcending your personal experience of suffering, you make yourself ready for the future time when God will unveil the presently unmanifested world to all mankind. Also difficult concept to realize, and that's not so unclassical. It's classical Jewish, maybe all human theoretical religious experiences that we would suffer, and we're paying through our suffering for the bliss of goodness. Our soul will bask in the light of God after death, in the world to come. Well, people say, oh, what about right now? I mean, I have a headache, I don't feel good, I have to go to the doctor all the time, God forbid. Yeah, take it more joyfully. It's not easy. So, Tanya recommendation is, you have to do one of the 2 things. You have to accept things as they are, or try to change the situation and remove the thing that is making you sad. Accept things as they are, that's in case, Tanya says, of the physical suffering. It was health, children, and financial issues. Hard to get it. It's hard for me to get that. It's not easy. Accept it. And the Tanya makes a point that when that person experiences that issues like sicknesses and present problems, then the person gets distracted from immediate needs. He has a need to go ahead and look for a good movie, a good this, good that. Usually the person is so concentrated and praying to God, God, please save me, please help me to become better, to become healthy. And that is connecting you with through Chokhmah to the upper world. And through the connection Tanya maintains, you find peace and joy, even in the suffering. That's what rabbinical teaching of take the good and bad equally joyfully. Not easy to grasp. Ladies and gentlemen, not easy to grasp that, to really get it. But that's what Tanya says. You have to find yourself to go beyond that. So maybe an example, the kids don't call you for years and you're so upset they abandoned me. Well, accept it. That's just what it is. But you would think, can I do something? Can I call them? Should I write them a letter? Should I go to a rabbi? Should I go to a family counselor? What do? You beat yourself with that, and the situation is not changing. At some point you have to accept it and say, well, I mean, they don't call me, but they are alive, they're good, they have families. Well, they're growing up being insensitive to me, they don't care for me. I am disappointed that I raised the children that are so insensitive, not only for my sake, but for them. How come they're so insensitive? They don't care. Well, that process can really eat the person alive. You have to come to terms and say, well, accept the reality. And even how do you accept it? Well, I guess nothing I can do. It's still sad. But to find joyfully, okay, fine, we're still part of the family, that's just the way it is. I'll call them maybe once a year. They call me once a year for a happy birthday, and maybe that's good. In the meantime, I put my energy into work, into friends, into something else. what would be interesting, what Tanya will say about that. But if it's religious situation, Tanya said, that you have to handle. Religious sadness is different. It's not now it's not physical ailments. Now you just did something wrong. You commit a sin. You stole something, whatever. And it eats you. What do you do? And the Tanya says, to handle that, you have to change the situation. But when you change the situation, Tanya says, you have to do it in prescribed times. Even then, don't just go around worrying all day long. Before going to bed, sit down and meditate, pray, and use those three elements: prayer, Torah studies, and good deeds. Those three things to get you closer connections. It's a good garments of soul. One of the set of garments is your thought, speech, and action, and the second set of actions is essentially your actions, good deeds, mitzvot. You're studying the Torah. By studying the Torah, you become one with God. Your soul not just aligns with God, but become one with that. The spark merges with Almighty. And in that process, you have to find time. And once you look at it and say, I've did everything I can, I return the stole, and if you can't return the stole anymore, if the person is gone that you stole from, and nothing you can do to fix the problem, or whatever other sin you did that cannot be corrected, you try to correct it, but if you couldn't correct it, at some point you ask God to ask you for forgiveness. Everything I did, I made donation to the charity, I did this, nothing else can do. Then you should then not dwell on the feeling, but completely wipe away any sadness from your heart and believe with perfect faith that God has erased your sin and then He is very forgiving. So don't carry on the shoulders the guilt. That is the depression over the sins. Section 4 of the Tanya chapter 26 talks about it. Again, material, children, health, finances, and spiritual, religious matters are issues that Tanya gives you specific examples, specific tools how to handle. Chapter 26. And then chapter 27 will go into, it's called, You Are Wonderfully Imperfect, Dealing with Inappropriate Thoughts. How do you deal with inappropriate thoughts? Is that bad? Is it something you cannot control? So Tanya will talk about it later. That, Mitzvot Hashem, with help of God, we'll discuss tomorrow. But today we'll look at this chapter. To be honest with you I still have difficulties to accept it because it's a difficult concept, and probably my venture to guess, not too many people can say, I'm so happy, I'm in deep pain, but I'm happy. Wow. But we'll look at it later. Just maybe by our discussing, by being together, thinking through it, listening to what you're discussing. That sharing, they say sharing somebody else's pain makes somebody else's pain less. So hopefully in that we're sending the energy of our prayers, please God, not only help remove our problems that we have in a future world, but remove them now. My belief, my personal belief, it's possible through this method that Tanya is presenting to us, that meditation and connection with God through our chokhmah, understanding, you contribute to the world and make the world better and make the life easier for somebody else. So my issues that I'm experiencing, by your prayers, help me. By my prayers and your prayers connected, help you, help other people. That's the dynamics, the soul dynamics that we don't know exactly how they work. Tanya makes it the best to present dynamics of this mechanism. And in the end of the day, that's the objective of God's assistance to us, to help us in spiritual matters, in the material matters, in financial matters, in health matters, and so forth. So have a great day, Shavua Tov, and tomorrow we'll continue on. I hope it helps. If you're looking at me and thinking, well, I understand what you're saying, I have the same search, then we accomplished our goal, at least partially. At least we reached out to each other. And at the end of the day, that's the Jewish way to unite, to find God, to find that unity. And to tell the truth, it's not just Jewish way, it's a human way. for all humanity, for Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus, non-believers in God, atheists, agnostics, whatever people want to be, pretend to be, or are. That's the unity that we have it in us. And that unity, Tanya is trying to help us to reach to. Let's see what other chapters present. Okay, have a great day.